Hey guys, I'm Mark.
I'm Alen.
And welcome to another episode of The Next Man Up. Well, welcome listeners to the Next Man Up podcast once again. As we say always, we're glad that you are with us and you have joined us, and we're honored that you're listening. And boy, I gotta tell you, I am really looking forward to today's episode. This is one that's been in the works for a while, and it's not just me and Alen in the studio today, so we've got some other voices. We're going to tackle a topic that I think is going to resonate with a lot of people out there, and so I'm excited to get to that. I'm excited that you're with us. As we've mentioned over the last few episodes, if you have suggestions, feedback, comments, questions, just hit us up at feedback@thenextmanup.com or on our Facebook page, The Next Man Up 1. We'd love to hear from you and engage with you in a conversation. We started this a year ago wanting to foster a conversation, and Alen and I have had a great conversation. We've captured those and called them episodes. But we want to encourage you and invite you into the conversation as well. So hit us up if you got something to say. We'd be happy to hear it. And as always, I'm joined by my colleague, my friend, my brother, Alen. Welcome. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too. I have a problem before we get started though. Normally my back is towards this sign that is in your studio.
Yeah.
It says my two favorite teams.
Oh no.
Michigan. And everyone who beats Ohio State. Yeah. I was fine with our relationship.
Oh, when you can't see that sign.
Until I saw it, I'm like, what is wrong with you, bro? Like,
I crossed the line.
Like but whatever. No, I think it's a funny sign.
It was a gift?
Sure it is.
Yes. But it's prominently displayed too.
It is prominent. It's I gotta say it's pretty clever. So,
look,
but anyway, good to see you.
It's how I roll, man. It's how I roll. It is good to see you. This is another episode where we get to lock eyeballs and be in the same room together, and so it's always awkward. No, it's a treat. It
is a treat.
Yes,
it's finally good to see each other in face to face instead of me being on a phone or like thinking of what's happening in the studio.
Yeah,
lonely.
Yes. No, it's much better. So we could go on and on for a while,
sure,
but that would kind of keep our guests out of the loop.
Yeah,
I'm excited too. This is going to be a good topic. Some time ago, as I was thinking about topics to tee up in this medium, in this context, I feel like this one was just put on my heart to address, and it's this: how do we help fathers who are parenting kids? And we're all about boys here, but again, this goes beyond just boys. How do we help fathers who are parenting kids they didn't father? Whether it's through adoption, or through a divorce, or through a death, or through whatever means, even a foster situation, right? That's near and dear to your heart. Every one of us in this room is impacted by this type of scenario. And so I wanted to bring not just our voices, but some other voices into this discussion, because when we look around the world today, when we look around the men, the fathers that are around us, people are impacted by this issue. And so I am thrilled to have our two guests with us today. So on my left, in the left corner, wearing the black and gray trunks, we have Jeff Wickerham. Jeff,
welcome.
It's a pleasure to have you with us, man.
Guys, I'm so honored to be here and talk and to listen and to learn from you three sitting in front of me. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So fun fact, do you remember the episode we did back in the summer where I was talking about this guy who was inspired by what we were doing, and he took his kid on a canoe trip?
Oh, yeah, that is right. That's you.
Jeff. That's me.
Okay, man.
That's Jeff.
It's good to meet you finally.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah. So it's fantastic to have you on the mic with us, and we'll get to your story in a minute, but welcome. Thank you for gracing us with your presence today. And then on my right, in the right corner, in the pink and white trunks, is someone that I've come to really admire and am pleased to call a friend. His name is Eric Watts. Eric, welcome in.
Thank you very much, Mark. Glad to be here. Looking forward to getting started with y'all. And I thought that we were better than this too, that sign.
Oh,
that
no.
Alen mentioned.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. I'm just saying, man.
The funny thing about it, though, is it says my two favorite teams, Michigan and anyone who beats Ohio State. You haven't really liked Michigan for about 8, 9
I know,
years.
I know.
The truth comes out.
I mean,
like-
I'm just saying.
Okay.
I would feel better. I would feel that you would be mindful of other people in the room if you would, just at least for this conversation, we turn that sign around. Is that possible? Yes, no?
You know what? What would Jesus do in this situation?
What would Jesus do?
He would not let collegiate athletics get in the way of building relationships. He would be the suffering servant here. So look, if you need to do that so that you can fully be present and engaged,
consider this like, Isaac and Abraham in a ram. And so because you are willing, we don't need to turn that around.
Okay. All right. We can roll with that.
But anyway, Eric, it is good to meet you, man.
Likewise, man. Likewise,
man.
a lot.
This would be good. Come on.
Yeah. So let's start by letting the listeners get a glimpse of who you guys are. So they've heard our story over and over. It's the record that's run and run and run, and it is our story. But you guys have some compelling stories as well. So Jeff, let's start with you. Just give us a glimpse of who you are. It's a wide open question, but just tell us a little bit about yourself, and even maybe some of what brings you into this conversation today.
Absolutely. So, my name is Jeff Wickerham, and Alen, he was like, "What?" when he asked me this question. Asked me if I had kids, and I said, yes. We have 6 kids.
Yes.
I think I said, God bless you.
Yes, you're right. And I responded with, yes, he has. We have 6 kids. My wife, Sarah, and I have 6 kids. And we have done it what I would call the untraditional way. We are both divorced. We both started with 2 kids when we came into our relationship, and because of God is who He is, He blessed us with 2 more kids.
Awesome.
So, we go from age 13 to 11-year-olds, an 8-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
Wow. I need like a stat sheet.
I know, me too.
Like for guys that call play-by-play, they've got all the rosters and the stats.
Yeah, I sometimes feel like who's on first.
With
what's going on.
Yeah.
So we have 6 kids, and to add to that awesomeness, we have a dog who's 14.
Okay.
And
in dog years, or
that's 14. Yeah,
okay,
so get old, aged, experienced, and we, my wife, I made the mistake of taking my wife to the animal shelter about a month and a half ago, and now we have 2 puppies. In addition to that, so we are the Brady
keep
Bunch
building.
in full swing. Yes, I'm like, I'm never taking you to the animal shelter again.
Yep.
never.
Yep.
Because the first time I took her, we adopted a puppy, so it's a house full. So we do that. I play husband, I play dad. I also work in a marketing field, and serve my church.
Cool.
So that's a little bit about me to kick things off.
Yeah, good for you. Jeff and I met through a mutual friend that I was meeting with, and he recommended that we get connected, and so we met for coffee sometime last year and had just hit it off. Had a great conversation, and some of the work that we were doing here was really resonating with him, and so we've been able to stay in contact together. And given your story, the 2 from each and now 2 together, we don't position ourselves as experts here, just fellow travelers. And so you've got some experience, and that's why we wanted to bring you in and have you part of this discussion, like what wisdom and experience, scars and things that you can share with us. So great. Pleasure to have you here. Eric. Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my real name is Eric J. Watts Sr. the First. So if you ever see me, call me Eric J. Watts Sr. the First.
Senior.
Okay, that's not really my real name. Just a name that I made up for myself.
It matters now, right?
It does matter now,
yeah.
indeed. Prior to October 17th of last year, I was just plain old, special old, gifted old, cool old, smooth old.
We got you.
Let it go.
All right. Eric J. Watts. But my wife and I have a now 6-month-old whose name is Eric James Watts Jr. Thus, my name is Eric J. Watts Sr. the First.
The First.
And we play a fun game where we have kids every 20 years because we've got a soon-to-be 21-year-old who's in college. His name is Christian. And so, really quickly, my wife and I just met 5 years ago. I was telling Alen when we got here how the Lord called me out of J.P. Morgan Chase, and that was in 2014 as well. Met my wife in 2014. What else? A bunch of other stuff happened in 2014 that it was just such a pivotal year that it really started to set things right in my life. And so Christian was still in school at that point, and they hadn't moved here yet. He was a sophomore at that point. They moved here in 2016. We get married in 2016. He goes off to college in 2016.
Okay.
So a lot happened in a short time frame. To wrap this portion up, at least for myself, so we've got the 2 boys, 2 young men. We've been married for going on 3 years now. The fun story about that, very briefly, is we met, and in 3 weeks, we knew that we were going to be married.
Cool. Wow.
So that's a different story, different topic for a different day.
Okay.
But that's essentially how it went. If Christian was maybe 2 or 3, we probably would have gotten married within 6 months because we knew. We just needed to wait, get him out of high school and into college. And again, 2014, I left my job at J.P. Morgan Chase. The Lord called me out of there into what I do now as a full-time leadership development specialist, life coach, and recently, not recently, I've recently decided to answer the call to preach on my life. So I do that. I help people discover what they want to be when they grow up, discover and play to their strengths so they can then go out and do what it is God has gifted and called them to do.
That's cool. Man, I like you.
I appreciate you, man. I like
you too,
bro.
Joe. I like you too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So 2014, interestingly enough, I wrote that down. That was the year that I married my wife.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I met her earlier than that, but that was the year we're like, let's do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting.
It was a big year. Big year.
So Eric, keep going with your story and tell us what it was like to go into a relationship with a child who was probably 14, 15 at the time.
16, yeah.
So just kind of talk us through what that was like for you coming in.
Sure. So it was very interesting, and I'd never been in a situation like that before in also what I would call a for real relationship where I know like, hey, this is really going to go somewhere. This isn't just, hey, we're dating. Like, nope, this is going to ultimately result in us being married and us becoming one as a family. Mm-hmm. And so it had its moments early on where I had to figure out, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to respond, react, act, behave? And not in terms of, who I am, because who I am is who I am. But now I've got a son.
Yeah.
And I don't use the term stepson because he's my son. We came together as one, as a family. And so once we did that, all that step stuff for me went out the door. I don't refer to him as my stepson. He's my son, period. And if I've ever met you and you said that, I probably corrected you and said, no, that's my son. I don't have any step anything. I got steps in my house, but I don't have any stepsons or anything like that.
Is his biological father still in the picture?
So he was there, but not very much involved.
Okay.
And that's still the case now. He's there, and Christian talks to him, and we talk about it sometimes. He's just not involved. And so that has its pluses and minuses, as you might expect. And so one of the things that that happened when we came together is I knew, after talking to some other folk who had gone through this, and either on one side or the other, I knew that I had to find my places to come in, so to speak. You know, you don't want to just come in and just, hey, I'm your dad, because I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, at least not at that point I was.
Right. Not in his eyes or in his life.
Right. Exactly. Now I am, and he would readily tell you that. But at that point, it's like, okay. Because he'd seen, my now wife had other relationships that obviously did not result in marriage. Mm-hmm. So was I going to stick around or leave like other folk had?
Right.
And so I had to pick my spots and not just barge into whether it was a conversation between them or a discussion or just offer my opinion about everything. I had to choose my spots wisely and allow him to welcome me in. And when he invited me in, then I would come in. And the trick with that is not saying too much or doing too much because you're so excited. Kind of like when we came in and your dog was excited, like, hey. And I get it. We've got 2 crazy dogs, but this is it for us. Once they go on to wherever they go on to, no, that's it.
At least for the next 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. See, we won't have another kid at that point. So it'd be like Eric J. Watts, Sr. the Third. Anyway, or Junior the Third, as it were. So anyway, I had to choose my spots and not get too excited about, okay, man, this is an opportunity for me to come in and say this or do that. And I would like to think that I did that well most of the time, and I think I did. But there's some things that I missed. Maybe some opportunities to exert more discipline and not be the disciplinarian, but to have my wife's back a little bit more early on. Because you're dealing with a dynamic of, well, I know that I could say something, but I don't know if I should.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to alienate him, and I don't want to, necessarily offend her or hurt her feelings. So I'm just going to kind of see, how things are going. And if it gets too bad, so to speak, then I'll step in. He's a good kid. He's a good young man. So it didn't get too bad. Was also a teenager. So there were some things early on that I know that I could have stepped in earlier and said, hey, here's the deal. We're not going to do that. And you also deal with the type of tone that you use, right? Because although he's not my biological son, and I trust me now, I don't worry about my tone now. I say exactly what I need to say.
Well, you've got the trust and the relationship established.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So now it's like, boy, knock it off. We didn't send you over there to do this. Knock it off.
Yeah.
Don't make me drive over there because before you know it, I will be there. Knock it off. Get it together. So, but at that point, I couldn't say that in that way. And so it was a matter of picking and choosing my spots and determining whether or not I was going to be or could be a little more firm early on. And that's just one of the ways that I missed the mark. We could spend this entire show talking about all the ways that I did it. There's another one that stands out, though, as well. And that's when they were first moving here in 2016. And Jeff, you'll have to let me know if 2016 was a big year for you, too, because it was a huge year for us. You didn't know this when you were planning this, Mark, but there's a lot of synergy here between the two of us and the four of us.
How about that?
God works in mysterious ways,
right?
For sure.
Right?
But in 2016, when they moved here, as we got married in September of that year, and my wife said, hey, I think you should, we should let Christian bring a friend out and all that good stuff. And I was like, yeah, kind of, but this is us getting established. So, I want us to get established in as a family unit, and then, we can bring his friends out or a friend out. And although it wasn't a bad thing and there was no fallout over it, it's something that I know that after the 2 or 3 of us talked about it later on, it's like, yeah, that would have been helpful. I'm like, okay. I didn't see it that way then as a new dad, so to speak. I was like, well, I just wanted to get us off on the right foot and get us firmly established, right? And I thought the best way to do that was it to be our family unit, and then we'd bring in other folk as we needed to. And again, it didn't adversely affect our relationship or anything else. It's just something that sticks out in my mind that, okay, that I would welcome to pass on to other men who are in this situation. It's like, yeah, because it's not like they were moving from, this is a tidbit I didn't throw in earlier, from across town. They moved from Pennsylvania, 3 hours away.
So it was a big move.
Yeah,
completely, everything's disrupted.
Yeah, so everything they had ever known, because they lived in a small town in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, and it was everything they'd ever known and done was there. Their entire lives had been there. So now it was leaving everything behind and then coming over here to Columbus, everything that had been established, and then coming here and living in my city. Now, I'm not originally from Akron or from Columbus. I'm from Akron. Shout out to the 330 Northeast Ohio all day, every day. Always got to give a shout out to my hometown. But I've been in Columbus for a number of years. So this has been home for me. This is where I became a man. I was born in Akron. I became a man here in Columbus. That's for sure. We'll talk about that at a different day potentially too. And so I didn't consider that enough early on, both for Christian and for Gina, my wife. And those were some hard conversations, especially between she and I. Because I was like, hey, I was so excited about having them there and establishing everything here. I kind of missed the mark on, I missed the mark on giving her the space. And not so much Christian, because you guys know kids adjust very quickly. Mm-hmm. They, whether they're 17, 20, or 5, they adjust very quickly. It's all of us adults who've got all the years of baggage and other things that it takes us a little longer to adjust to changes and situations. And anyone who you meet that says, oh, I love change, they're lying to you. Because they don't. If they're over 10, they don't love change. We don't. We like our routines.
Mythbuster right there.
Yeah, we like to stay where we are in the sweet spot of what we know, and it's comfortable. Even if it's comfortably uncomfortable, we know what it is. It's familiar. Come on, now who am I talking to, right? So we know that. And I should have given her more space to grieve, if you will. Because there's a grieving process involved there. I didn't know. I sound like I really know what I'm talking about because I lived through it the hard way.
Yeah.
Because I didn't do it right.
Well, hindsight, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now I can help other men, other brothers, other folk, and other people with kids in situations like I was in and say, hey, this is how I believe you should do this. This is what's going to be beneficial to you. This is what was helpful to us. This is what would have been more helpful to all of us if we had done this. And so once they got here, though, and he was right off to school that fall, so it was she and I getting to know one another as a married couple. And over the years, Christian and I have developed a great relationship because I wanted him to see early on that I wasn't going anywhere. I wanted him to see how I was going to treat his mom. Because that was going to be part of the litmus test of, is this guy for real? Because here I come, professing Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and this is what I do and who I am. Okay, I'm sure he's heard that before. How's this going to be different?
Right. Why are you any different than anybody else?
Right. And so if I were him, I would have been watching me as well. Yeah. I would have been watching, if the roles were reversed, I'd have been watching him, saying, all right, I've heard that before. Prove it. And so every day, I didn't seek to do anything intentional. Well, I've got to do this thing every day to show him. I just lived. I lived the way that God wanted me to live, the way he had been calling me to live. Back to 2014 again, Lecrae has a song, My Whole Life Changed. My whole life changed in 2014 because I finally relented and let go and said, all right, God, whatever you want to do with my life, I'm done. I'm done doing what I want to do. I'm done, as I like to put it out here, being the Black Frank Sinatra. I'm going to let you have your way with my life. And so once that happened, it was off to the races. And so I wanted Christian to see that, to see me in full, authentic me, good, bad, ugly, and indifferent, and understand that now this man who is his dad, who is a follower of Jesus Christ, who is professing that, not just is he professing it, I'm living it every day, every day. And so I needed him to see that, wanted him to see that, needed him to see how much I loved and love his mom, and what I knew what that was going to do for him. And so on a daily basis, even though he was away at college, anytime we were together, and even now, he still sees it. He sees us play around and joke around, He sees sometimes that, okay, maybe I'm not too pleased with what's going on. He's not too, he sees that, and then he's able to understand, like, okay, it happens. Everybody gets angry. No big deal.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. Families have these falling outs.
Yeah.
And we don't fuss and argue intensely in front of him. My wife and I have a term. We call it TIFF, time of intense fellowship. We don't have times of intense fellowship in front of him or in front of Eric. We, like anybody, we disagree, you know. And depending on, here's a tip for someone. Depending on what it is, if you have older kids, invite them into it. Not the disagreement, but the discussion, because that's usually what it is before it becomes a disagreement. Because it's a teaching moment. It's a teaching opportunity for them. And one day, for all of you who have sons, prayerfully your sons will become husbands and fathers. And you're going to show them what it is to lead. And you can show them just by doing that, by doing that simple stuff. And so now when we all come together, there are times where we have to have the hard conversations, the three of us, the two of us, he and I, and it's easier now than it was. It's a lot easier now than it was back in 2014, let alone 2016 and 17. And as he has gotten older and more mature, he understands a little bit more. Now, if y'all can think back to being 20 or 21, you still don't know nothing.
Oh, I had it all figured out.
I mean, I know you did. That's why we're here with you today, because you had it all figured out since then. Nevertheless, he does understand far more than he did at 15, 16.
Sure.
His wisdom has increased in great measure. And so we've still, of course, because we're still, folk think, oh, well, they're in college now, you're done. You're not done. They don't have a clue.
Yeah.
They think they do, and they know some things, but they don't really know what's going on.
No.
They don't know what's going on out here in the real world. You're in a college dorm, or even if you're in an apartment, you're still being taken care of in some way, whether it's by your parents or the folk in the dorm or your professors or someone else. There's someone tending to you more than you're probably tending to yourself. So now when he comes home and we have to have some of these hard conversations, it's easier because now I can go in. I don't wait. I still wait for my spots because there's wisdom in that. Yeah. But it's different now. It's not like, oh, should I? What kind of? It's like, no, here's the deal. This is what you're not going to do. This is what you are going to do. Period. But wait, no, we're not doing that. And sometimes it's, well, hey, man, here's what I think. Because I can't tell him everything to do because I do want him to figure some of this stuff out, right? To use the mind and the wisdom that God has given him. And you have to kind of weigh that as dads. Forget the situation of, me being his dad, so to speak, in our situation, and Jeff, you, and others. You just have to kind of weigh that as dads, period. It's like, all right, I could make this a little easier for him or for her, for those who have daughters. But I don't think that's the way to go.
That applies universally, is what you're saying, regardless of how you became in this situation.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Eric, I want to take you back, to the point at which you went from 0 to father in like 3 seconds. And there's, I'm curious. You went in with the perspective of, you didn't say it this way, but with the perspective of, I need to earn some trust here, and I need to build a relationship with Christian.
Right.
Where did that come from? Was it a book? Was it an example from your own dad? Was it just wisdom? Like, was it trial? Like, how did you come into this situation with that wisdom to be like, okay, I just became the quote unquote father, but now I need to earn the right to be a dad? Mm-hmm.
Sure. So part of it is, having watched other men do this. Part of it is a lot of prayer, a lot of time on my face, a lot of, asking God to help me get this right. And another part is understanding that God brought us together. So we have a solid foundation there. And my wife and I are both believers, both followers of the Lord. But there are some couples who can't say that.
Right.
And I've been speaking to people recently in my coaching business who, one guy I was telling Alen as well, just to deviate just a little bit, and I'll come right back to what you were asking, Mark. One guy I coached yesterday, a guy in Florida. It was our first session, and I was telling him what it was going to be about. And then immediately the Lord started to speak to me about him. And so I said, all right, well, I can tell this is not going to go the way that I planned. And I just told him, I said, hey, I've got a prophetic gift. And sometimes the Lord, because I didn't know where he was as far as what he understood. And I said, sometimes the Lord will speak to me and tell me things about people that I wouldn't normally know. And no sooner than I said that, boom, here it came. And I just started rattling off the things that the Lord gave me for this guy. And the phone got quiet, and I thought I lost him. I said, are you still there? And he said, yeah, I'm still here, Eric. I'm speechless, man. I don't know what to say. And he's like, I'm over here I'm wiping my eyes, and he's like, I don't know what to say. And so that was an interesting day yesterday. But to get back to what you were asking and tie all that together, it's spending time in prayer and learning from other men who have done this either in some way, the way that I'm doing it in some fashion, or asking around to find other men who've done this. And then trusting that because God had brought us together, and that's the linchpin to this. This guy said yesterday that he could not. He's like, yeah, I really can't go to my wife, and I don't feel comfortable going to her and telling her spiritual things. I'm thinking to myself, well, that's a problem. I don't know that we'll get into that in coaching, but we'll see. I was happy to be able to go to my wife, to Gina, and say, hey, I know that we've got this, and here's why. Because we were praying about this together, and we're standing and coming united on this together. And so that's a large part of what enabled me to do that well. And let me give a shout out to my wife because, and maybe Jeff will talk about this too, our wives are smart, fellas.
Yes, they are.
They are smart.
No doubt.
I mean, for real. Now, I'm not even joking. They are smart. And listening to her wisdom, because think about it, in my situation, she had spent at that point 15, soon to be 16 years with Christian, with our son, right? So she knows him inside and out, upside and down. She can read him before he opens his mouth, okay? And so she had spent all that time with him, so she had the book on him. That's one of the things that I could have done a lot better, again, is listen to her more about him, about behaviors and thoughts. And I caught on to that fairly quickly because I would start asking questions. Well, babe, what do you think this? Or what did he mean by that? Or, if this has happened in the past, how did you handle it? Or how did you react to it? So it's a lot of it, too, was listening to her wisdom, right? And getting that from her on how to move forward in this.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she readily admits, so this isn't telling any tales out of school. If it is, I'll find out, like Jeff mentioned earlier when he did something like this, that she messed up a lot in her relationships with folks she dated before I showed up, and the impact that it's had on Christian and still continues to have in some ways. Because we see certain things come out, and we're like, okay, all right, we got it. We're thankful to God that he is now healing him of those things. Nevertheless, she will openly and readily admit to, like, yeah, there's some stuff that he's seen that he shouldn't have seen. Some things that I did wrong in my dating relationships, my dating life that impacted him. And I'm regretful and remorseful for that. And I said, all right, babe, I get it. It's over now. I get it. You got to let that go and allow the Lord to completely heal you of that. And it hasn't come up in some time. Nevertheless, those things, listening to that and understanding her wisdom about him in general is what allowed me to be able to do this well and to what I hope has been me doing it well. And I know it has. Let me not be fake, but like, oh, well, if I've done it well. I know I've done it well. I know I've done it well. Not perfectly.
Sure.
But I know that I've done it well. Because at the very least, I've submitted and surrendered to the Lord.
Yeah.
Our relationship.
Yeah.
He and I, and then all three of us. And it's a hard thing to not let go, but it's a hard thing to have or to be a part of. Because think about it. They spent all those years together without me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
And they made it.
That's right. That's right.
They found a way.
That's right. Scrapping, whatever it took, they made it. And they share things that I'll never be able to fully understand. And that was kind of hard in the beginning when I'm trying to find my way and make my way into this relationship and be dad and be husband. And it's like, man, you know, whether it was, you know, inside jokes or whatever else. And you have to watch this, y'all. We've got to be careful, right? We've got to be careful not to have our feelings hurt by that stuff. The spirit of offense. Because Satan will surely use that to say, oh, you're offended because they shared a story about this one time they got ice cream and they dropped it on the ground and they pick it up and they still ate it. You're offended by that? Oh, now watch what I'm going to do. Okay? Mm-hmm. So he'll come in and before you know it, he's got a toehold and a foothold and a stranglehold and you're mad and upset and angry and hurt and off in the corner pouting. Come on, who am I talking to? About nothing. So we've got to be careful of that spirit of offense. I had to be careful about that spirit of offense, and it crept up at times. That's real. I'm being real with y'all.
Yeah.
And I had to be like, nah. I can see us walking in, you know, one of the malls around here, and they're doing whatever they have done for years. And I'm like, I'm kind of looking, kind of with the side eye. Like, then I had to come to myself and say, stop. Stop. They didn't not include you on purpose. And it's not that they weren't even not including me. They were just doing what they do.
Right, right.
They were doing what they've done for, 18, 19 years. Mm-hmm. So I've got a choice at that point, right? To either join in the reindeer games, if you will, or sit on the sidelines with my face all twisted up and be mad for no reason.
Eric, isn't it interesting? You've got a whole 16 years of your own life that Christian was not a part of.
Right.
And yet you're not in that moment. You're not thinking of that. Like you're thinking of, oh, well, they're excluding me from this, but the reality is they were excluded just because of circumstances from the equivalent time period in your own life.
Right.
It's just interesting how we see this and
good.
process it.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, let's get you into the conversation as well, and kind of the same question. So you entered fatherhood through a more traditional and typical way, right? You got a wife, and you guys start having kids. Then all of a sudden things go awry, and you end up in a scenario where you went overnight, so to speak, from 2 kids to 4 kids, and I'm sure had some of your own challenges and transitions. So just kind of take us through that moment and maybe the shift in thinking or perspective that was there as you went from a couple biological kids to non-biological, but part of the family.
Sure. So, yeah, there are. Get to your question.
Yeah.
There are a lot of connections that you brought up, Eric, and I wrote some things down that to answer that question. I'm still learning, and it went from we knew each other through work and volunteer organizations. My wife and I did. Me coaching soccer and her son being on the team, and she was just somebody with a husband during that time, and I was divorced, and she was my insurance agent, and that's it, and that's honestly how I looked at her. Fast forward, and I tell this story, like at the moment it needed to happen, the curtain was brought down. I'm like, she's beautiful. Like I never saw her. Like she was a pretty person, but there was nothing. And then all of a sudden, wow.
Was there a spotlight and angelic voices in the background?
Absolutely.
So a Lion King moment.
Yes. Hakuna Matata.
Yeah.
So we got married in 6 months from when we decided to start dating until we got married, and it was quick. And so we didn't know how to do the whole your kid, my kid, when should that happen. We dated for a while. The difference was I already knew her kids because I knew them as her kids because I coached her son in soccer.
Yeah.
And she knew who my kids were. And interestingly enough, she's an insurance agent. And her very first meeting, she started her business through State Farm. Her very first meeting was me and my soon-to-be ex-wife coming in together to meet with her. And
wow.
But at that point, it was, it was what it was. And so we knew each other's kids. After probably a month, we got together as a family. And one of the things that...
After a month of being married?
Dating, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
After a month of dating
all right.
Each other or so, we decided to have the kids officially meet. And it was hard trying to figure out to work with, kind of like you were alluding to, in learning what should I do? What am I allowed to say? What am I not allowed to say? And I don't have the answers. And I say that because last night I had I don't want to learn this right now, God. I want to do it my way. And I'm really mad because I did something I thought was right. And my wife disagreed. Eric, they are brilliant. Our wives are, and I wrote that down. She pointed out something to me, and I'll try to explain the situation the best that I can. We have an 11-year-old daughter that we asked to try clothes on that we recently purchased for her. And I told her to do that, and she was in the midst of doing that. And we're a very comfortable family. She came upstairs with a shirt and her underwear on, and the clothes were upstairs. And I'm like, Audrey, you need to go put on shorts. Okay. Well, at that point, so she came upstairs in a pair of shorts that it would now be her third pair of pants she was wearing that day. She wore leggings to school. She went outside to play basketball, had basketball shorts on, and then came in and put these third shorts on. And Sarah said, Audrey, what are you doing with those other pair of shorts on? Well, I just put them on. I was going to try on clothes. And she's like, you need to go get on the shorts you had on before because it just creates more laundry and more work. And Audrey didn't like that. And I think she didn't like it whether I said it or whether Sarah said it. Audrey is my biological daughter. And she just was unhappy with that. And so she did the 11-year-old thing and stomped off downstairs mad.
What?
Yeah. And so in my brilliance, which was a huge mistake, I went and talked to Audrey about it. I said, Audrey, what are you doing? Well, I just found these and Sarah said to go put on these shorts. And so I did. And so she's like, I didn't know what to do and I didn't want to talk to her and I just felt like I couldn't. So I was mad and okay. And so I come upstairs and Sarah was mad at me for going to talk to Audrey. I'm like, I saw a problem. She reacted in a way I don't feel a kid should react by stomping off when they were told to do something. And I'm like, I was doing what I thought was right. And Sarah then kind of, after a half an hour of us talking and going back and forth, the kind of light I saw the light. I undermined Sarah's parenting because I went and I tried to solve the problem. She's like, Jeff, you didn't need to do that. I'm like, but I saw a problem and I needed to fix it and let Audrey know it wasn't right.
Wait, hold on a second. No father has ever said, I just want to fix this. Ever.
And so I think the dynamic, though, Sarah being not the biological mom, made it that much harder than if it was just her biological mom. Because I wanted to go solve the problem. And Sarah said, you did. And I know your heart was in the exact right place it needed to be. But you undermined me. I'm like, I'm sorry. And that was one of the things where I'm still learning.
Sure.
5 years later, I'm like, what am I supposed to do in this situation? And she's like, if she would have come back upstairs, still mad, still pouting, then we have that conversation with her. Okay. So I tell you that story just to share, like, what is it like? I'm still learning and still
It's real.
growing.
It's real time, right?
Yeah.
It is real time. And it is hard.
Well, listeners, I hope you are enjoying listening to this discussion as much as we enjoyed participating in the discussion. The voices in the room, the wisdom in this room is just incredible. And to be able to share our stories in this way and with you is a real treat. But we're going to pause this episode here. We're going to break it here, and we will pick up right where we left off in the next episode. So come back next week. Join us for part 2 of this conversation, and we'll see you then. Hey, listeners, thanks for journeying with us on this Next Man Up podcast. You know, we would love to hear from you. Maybe you have a question or an idea, perhaps a topic for us to consider. If that's you and you want to reach out to us, you can get us at feedback@thenextmanup.com. That's feedback@thenextmanup.com. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you later.